Yeah, we're live and we're recording also locally because we have lost two full play sessions to Twitch muting the VODs. Which turns out the first time I thought I fucked up and I didn't unmute things. Or I didn't yeah. But it turns out after the second time I found out that the app soundtrack by Twitch was causing my VODs to get muted. So when I tested live, it sounded fine, but it wasn't saving it to the recording because I had one I had like soundtrack as a source on like one scene buried still, and yeah, it just decided to mute the whole channel other than my voice. So yeah, so it's their music program, which you send it to channel 6 out of the 6 channels that your audio gets recorded on, and it's like, all right, anything that shows up on channel 6 will mute everywhere. Um, except I wasn't running it, I wasn't playing music off of it, and uh, they don't tell you that when you install it. So like, stop sending things to 6. So yeah, did a bunch of testing yesterday to fix it.
Figure out a rough balance of the requirements are not so challenging that the fact that both of you want to go into this but have a negative modifier to intelligence or whatever you have is not just like I can't do this thing, but also to at least somewhat respect the fiction that like you did choose to build a character that's dumb, and thus like it should be arguably like there should be a consequence to that if you built a dumb character and then said I want to do smart brain things. So like I want to find a balance because I don't want to say, well, you're shit out of luck because that's the character you made. Like that's not realistic. Like it, but it also I think the mechanics need to be reflected in that. So like I was thinking about it, and the more I think about it, like I think the DC while it doesn't necessarily need to be 15 as a concrete example, makes sense to still remain high. Like I'm not going to reduce the DC just because the two people doing it are dumb. But the other thing that was brought to my attention is like, it doesn't necessarily have to be you doing all of the work. Like Eric, you want to do poisons. Bill, you want to do potions, but like to Orion's point in sort of that thread, a lot of his abilities are centered around like making stuff. Like he is high intelligence. So like I think there's also an argument to be made for like maybe your training was identifying plants and like formulae, but you don't necessarily need to be the one doing the actual concoction or something there. Like I want to find that balance that both makes it challenging and reflective of challenging and reflective of the fact that like
Ryan shouted hi at you in the chat. My wife says hello.
It doesn't magically get easier because you guys are dumb, but also I want to make sure, to Bill's concern, it's not just now. Because we didn't come up with these rules immediately, I don't want it to turn into well, I've decided we're going to change the rules and fuck you because those rules make it so you're both shit.
Right. The way that I would think would be kind of a, I don't know,
compromise,
a middle ground on this.
Yeah,
would be thinking about poisons and health potions, at least as far as we set them up thus far, like recipes. Right. So, yeah, at least in this first period of downtime, and that can maybe get refined down the road, we know A plus B plus C and D equals this effect.
Yeah.
finding those things, knowing where to look for those things, like because a lot of at least the rules that we, the homebrew rules that were put in the Discord were a lot about crafting from fucking nothing.
No, they involved having the components. It's just there were two parts to it. The first part, you have to run around scavenging everything and then get the component to actually make the thing. And then no matter how good the potion is, you roll a DC 15 check, and that's how you make the potion. And then presumably, if you don't make that, all your components are wasted.
So I'm in a kind of agreement that maybe it should, the foraging that with the rules that were looked at, I think that it would make sense that the foraging difficulty is the same as the creation. So it's like, hey, if I'm going out there and getting something that's like a dandelion and it takes only a 12 for me to find it, then it should also only take me a 12 to make it.
Well,
so
there's
like
something also
the
like,
harder it is, the more powerful it is, the more difficult it should be to create.
The rules that were laid out, at least in those tables of like what plants do what and have what effects, is was kind of a comprehensive list of, I mean, obviously it's not comprehensive, it's all fucking homebrew, but it was everything in the world. And it doesn't stand to reason that you would know all of these fucking things about all of these plants across all of these vastly different landscapes.
Well,
I mean, that's absolutely true.
Like if we're really narrow in what we know because of the only small amount of time we spent learning those things.
So I think in practice, the extent to what you know is the plants in the surrounding area, and you likely only know the specific, I would say, plants to make like the base level thing, which we had sort of already agreed was the thing you knew how to make, right? Like the base level potion.
I think that like Eric's like saying it was like a recipe, I think that really is how this should be treated. Is like you start off as a cook and then you can work your way up to being an actual 4-star chef. And during that time, you are learning more recipes, and as you get better, the easier it would be. But that's just the creation part. That's once you have the components. So, the other part would be hey, I'm either a forager or I'm a farmer, where I can actually make these ingredients. So like I might know how to use wheat really well in baking, but I don't know how to grow it. Or if I walked by it, I wouldn't be able to say, hey, I can totally use that. So it like for me, I consider it to be two very distinct jobs.
That makes sense. I
have a random kind of suggestion thing.
Yeah.
Rather than a DC determining whether or not you can make the thing, how wouldn't it make sense that if you know the recipe, that the DC is how well you follow the recipe, and therefore its effectiveness? So like if it's a DC 10 and you get a 10, you make a normally effective pot. And if it's a 20, you make a really effective pot. And if it's a 0,
you burnt it.
You fucked it up. And that means you can shift the DC based on their experience making a particular potion, without like messing with the whole system. No, that was just off the top of my head.
I think that it's reasonable if we were to say, like Bob really was good at finding dandelions and making them, that it's understandable that it's like if that is something that is available, it should reduce the amount of roll. Instead of it just being a 12, it's now a 10, because that is his specialty. And if he's purposely looking only for that, then I think that would make sense. But it's not one of those, hey, roll, and if you pulled a 17, you just made something amazing, because it's that's beyond your purview.
Also, it's hard to make. I mean, so I don't.
Does that make sense? Where it's like you can lower the DC, but it means that a high success doesn't give you anything additional.
Well, so you can lower the DC. Like there are mechanics in there for lowering the DC, which is things like take twice as much time, or take more time, or Because I think it was something like it takes an hour to make a potion. For every extra hour you take, you lower the DC by 1. For every if you double the ingredients, you lower it by 1. I don't remember the specifics because I don't have it
was
on me.
something like that, yeah.
And I'm less
Yeah.
concerned about the very specifics and more the general like premise of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say, as it being my character's build, I would prefer it not to be a situation of, oh, well, I have an intellect of 16, and I don't know what does Bob have? What is it, a 10 or whatever?
8 or 9.
It's an 8.
An 8. So I'm just saying that I would prefer it to be still a matter of respecting the mechanics and the build of the characters, that it's not that Bob can't do it, it's just that it would be more likely for Achilles to do it.
So that's actually what I like about the DC cats. Stop it! Fucking, what is with you and
DC
monitors
cats.
and just pawing at them? That's kind of what I like about the rules as they were written, is like you have a DC, which in and of itself is going to imply that you as a smart brain character are going to be more likely to hit it. But you also have like a way to compensate for that. So like Bill can still do it. It's just going to take longer because he's going to have to be more slower and more precise, or it's going to require more ingredients in order to have a better chance of not cocking it up. Whereas so it's, I'm Bill. I could try to do this myself, but I'm bad at it. And that's reflected in the fact that I have to take a lot more time, which means I can do fewer overall. Or I'm going to need a lot more ingredients, which is probably the root combination I would go. Like I'm not trying to nail down very specifics because it's just not going to be relevant really until the next downtime. But I feel like that creates that balance of he could give it to you and say, can you just do this for me? Because you're going to be a lot better at it.
Each other.
We can get more out of the deal.
So to clarify the main issue that I have with it, everything you've described is fine, but the mechanics as written right now sound like what can happen is, okay, I want to take it slow. I'm going to go in there, spend twice as long and use 2 times as many ingredients for everything. So I have a lot to spare. And then I roll a 6, and then my entire downtime, I don't make any potions. And we don't have any outcome from the thing I made because I failed the check.
Well, the DC
this
15
is something where I think a extended kind of like you roll until you make it kind of thing, and that's how long it shows you taking longer, kind of makes more sense from different systems. But just I roll, I fail, we now get no potions for the entire downtime seems bad.
That's fair.
So here's the thing is that it says that it's a DC 15. Like, I don't have it up right in front of me right now, but if I remember correctly, it's for every hour you spend on it additional to the 1 hour, it's 1 DC less. So
but it's still possible to fail that check in its entirety.
It's a DC 15 if you're trying to do this in a short rest. But if you're going to do it during a downtime of where you have a week to work on it, it makes sense, in my opinion, that it should be more not a question of whether or not you succeed per se, but of how much of a success. Because I mean, if you're spending a week doing something that would take other people 1 hour, I would like to think that you would be successful, even if you're not particularly skilled at it.
I guess my main, I agree with that in principle. I think what would feel better is something along the lines of like, okay, I'm going to dedicate a week of time to this. I roll, and then based on that, that's how successful I was that week. That's how many potions I made, or some way of figuring that out. Like, okay, I did terribly, I got 1 potion. I did decent, hey, I got like 3, like that kind of thing. And then that's like the downtime spent. That kind of thing seems like it would make sense. And you could still be terrible at it.
I'm gonna part of this is I kind of don't want to belabor this point. I'm gonna take that under advisement, because what I don't want is very much do not want the making of potions to be the way you spend your downtime. That is a thing you can do during your downtime. It is very much intended to not be literally your downtime activity, because that sort of just creates this weird, like, I don't like the Sophie's choice that creates of, do I make potions for the group that are a necessity, or do I do something that helps me sort of make my character better?
Right.
So
Yeah, that was the one thing that I had issue with the video you sent, was she was saying that she doesn't like how much time it takes, and I'm like, no, that's there on purpose. It's
No,
like
the
in the
300
thing,
days
it's
per
taking
health potion was weird.
no. A health potion takes 1 day.
Okay, I can only
That's
go
a
off what she
high
said.
level health potion takes 300 days. So like a health potion, a regular one takes 1 day, and then a superior one takes a week. Like
That's a weird
I had to
split.
look this all up because of the other campaign
yeah,
that I'm running.
sure, maybe
I'm
Anyway.
not saying we have to use those rules. I'm just saying that that was my issue with it, is that this idea that, oh, I can just now, over the course of a short rest, make these things just because I rolled really well.
I also think for our campaign, it would make sense to be like, essentially say that the tools and supplies that we have aren't portable. I don't have a like three, like, you know, like a 1 foot by 1 foot small like brewing can. Like, oh cool, let me just grind out a potion really fast. Like I think
yeah,
I think
and so that gets into like, I've kind of already set up this idea that like those supplies, you either need to be in a town that has their own kit you can use, or you have to be at home. So like,
yeah,
I'll give this some more thought, because there are things that were brought up that made me think about like what this system as written was intended for. Sort of starts to break down when your downtime of, you know, 2 to 4 to 6 weeks or however much it is, like, I think it's more complicated than it needs to be in a world where most of where this is going to apply is a stretch of time where time doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it matters, but it's, so I'll okay.
Like, the only time when I would think that would be like really pertinent would be if you're working with a very, very limited number of supplies. Like, you've got one of this thing you need to make a potion out of. Yeah, that would make sense to make a check out of it. Or
and you need to make it tonight before tomorrow's thing.
You know, if per what Bill was saying, if like we know that the barbarian horde is coming in 80 minutes, we're gonna try and bust out a health potion right fucking now. Oh, okay, that's gonna be difficult.
So that's where I started to get into to the thought process, and then we're gonna move on of having like two different, like, I like these rules for when you're on a job and time is much shortened down and relevant. The foraging rules for where you're at and what potions you can make, like that starts, and how you do it, like that starts to make a lot of sense in that, like, we're on a long rest, I need to whip some stuff up, but doesn't really work for downtime as a way to just make them en masse. So I'll give some thought, and maybe there's some mix, but I watched the video today and I thought, oh, this is a problem that we have, and I was curious what you guys think.
I liked a lot of it. I like the idea that on the road it's something along these lines, but I mean, it's like what Bill's point of saying, hey, if I got the time and I'm willing to spend that time, I should have some at least moderate success with what I'm doing. But
yeah, and so what it might turn into is technically we're using them in both, but they're super hand waved in the downtime aspect because of the nature of downtime and who's doing what, and we only really rely on the mechanics elsewhere. Anyway, moving on to recap. So I'm gonna recap the first session, and then I'll give it over to you guys to do the recap for last week's session.
And that was like last year. I can't remember.
Dad jokes.
So the first session that we lost the audio of, basically this session was you guys receiving the job of your next job, basically. And your job that you were hired to do is the Imperial Academy of Sciences up near the Imperial Capital, technically in. Has finally managed to secure an agreement with an orc tribe that lives out west, to go on to what is the site of one of the last great battles of the war, to sort of just do like an archaeological sociological dig, essentially. Unfortunately, after having figured all of that out, a group of barbarians moved in and is generally being a nuisance. And so there's been a couple fights. And so out of concern for the group's safety, they hired TBD to serve as essentially an escort, and fucking what's his face? Oh my god, I'm so bad with names. Basically said, hey, like if you can just solve the problem, you might be able to come home early. So that'd be sweet. The leader of TBD. You then met the three members of the Imperial Academy, Volan Reed, Dean Marlowe, and Thomas Sutton. All three professors of different things. Thomas is a professor of religious history, Dean of anthropology and sociology, and Volan of history. And she is actually also the leader of the expedition. And you guys talked with them a little bit before taking a caravan of about 6 to 8 trucks west to the city of Wistakenfork, a fairly large, reasonably advanced city for this area. As you guys approached, you guys saw, for a lot of you, your first airship. Obviously not for Dawn or Achilles. Well, I guess by a lot of you, I mean just Jider. Now that I think about it. And we had a nice long discussion about the nature of airships, and that they are very akin to like Final Fantasy VII Highwind-esque, where it's just basically, or like Final Fantasy VI, where it's very like boat, and then they shove some propellers on it, and now it's in the air. And there's a lot of different models, but fundamentally that's sort of where they came from. You then, it was getting late and you didn't necessarily want to roll into the orc encampment at 2 a.m. So you stayed the night in Wistakenfork, deciding to imbibe some alka-booze at a local tavern, in which you witnessed 2 rival gangs going at it musical style. What you found out later to be the Obsidian Roses and the Crimson Fangs. And you all are Onyx Roses and Crimson Fangs. And you guys decided that the best way to get involved was to throw both a chair and also a bomb.
Whoa.
And a punch.
Yes, all 3 of those happened.
We didn't decide
One of those
that
things
was
is not like the others.
We didn't
Unfortunately,
decide.
the chair started a riot, because every time you throw a chair, it starts a riot.
That was a lesson in diplomatic de-escalation of situations.
Throwing chairs?
Yes.
It did not work. The lesson was it's a bad plan and did not work.
You know, I don't know if I've got enough data to
You're
really back
implying
up
that
this
there
being
was
a
a
bad
plan.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we need to try this. We need to experiment a few more times.
I mean, you definitely de-escalated their tensions, because upon having a chair and a bob thrown at them, they banded together in order to eliminate a common enemy, which was the group of you, which ended very poorly for them.
I don't know if they even would have registered a bob being thrown at them, because from their perspective, bob was thrown into the bar.
Yeah,
that is true.
Sideways.
It was a poor throw.
It was a good throw. Poor aim.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. I'll give
Thank
you
you.
that. It was touche. You guys won that fight somewhat handedly. Before
Thanks, Jider.
they ran and the Sons of Dawn appeared. And this is where I'm going to hand it over to you, because this marks the beginning of the last session and the recap for that.
Go, Jider, go.
What? Why me?
Why not?
What did we do last time? I think we just talked a lot with the Sons of Dawn about.
You
Talked
went
a lot
and
with the Sons
gambled,
of Dawn.
so
Oh yeah, I forget
and
everything.
Oh,
you
God, yeah,
lost
the
some
gambling.
money, and you
All the
also
money that went
paid all the
disappeared.
bottles. You are poor now. You have
Yeah, I
negative
have
money.
zero.
You owe money to
I have
Don.
I mean, I owe him like 10 gold. Oh, I took a note. Let's see, how much do I owe him?
It's 10 gold.
12 gold. It's 12. Or
Only 1,200 copper.
Or I pay him back if I vaporize a dude bro for him.
Facts.
Yeah,
But
I
I
believe
have
it was.
so
yeah.
I also have 100 or 1,100 puffer points at the Wolfhound Casino because they have a loyalty program, which I can use at other casinos. That took up a decent amount of time, but that was actually that was a really fun little game that we played. The way we were doing it. There's an old was he one-eyed or did he just have a droopy eye?
No, it was I mean, like he wasn't wearing an eye patch,
Hagen?
but there was only one eye.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Hagen. Yeah.
There's this guy Hagen who won both times. And he seems like he's the type of guy that we might run into again.
And take
If
all
we
your
go to other casinos.
Yeah, because he's just on top of gambling everywhere.
We also learned, or at least my character, Achilles, learned that apparently when there's a magical force field, is that what it was?
Yeah.
That was at the casino.
Anti-magic
It was like
zone.
messing, anti-magic zone. Yeah, that's it. It was messing with his goggles and also just himself in general. He was feeling like
His digestive
wonky.
tract.
Yeah, woozy, wonky, whatever. And he was just like, is this drunk?
I'm actually going to say that yes, what you were feeling is the feeling of being like heavily tipsy.
Oh yeah. So you guys couldn't tell because you already were.
That's true. They were pretty drunk. Anything else happened?
I invented smelling salts for Don for his hangover.
Yep, that occurred.
We got on decent terms with the Sons of Dawn. At least they tolerated us and didn't throw us out of town. Paid back the bartender for the beer that Jider destroyed with my body. And
Some might argue you destroyed with your body.
Yeah. You could.
I wouldn't argue
It's a
that, but
semantics.
some might.
we can debate that later. Yeah, and then we left town and went to the orc encampment, we went to the site where the orcs were, where we made great friends with them and nothing bad happened.
I remember it slightly differently.
No, I concur with this. Yeah.
I recall us meeting some shapeshifters and they were really cool.
So you guys do realize that all of you just collectively claiming you remember it differently does not mean that's what happened.
Yeah, no
I
proof.
don't know. It's working pretty
Well,
well. for a
considering
Republican
that
Party
our
right now.
DM doesn't
Oh,
want
God.
to tell us what happened.
I'm
That's
letting you
how it
guys
happened.
finish, and then I'm going to sort of fill in the blanks like we do literally every time.
Because we're terrible at this.
There's no blank here.
No, just this is how I like to do it, is let you guys remember the details that are important to you and then fill in the ones that are globally important.
I think Don hit on some orc or something.
For what
So
it's
we-
worth,
we-
primarily I do it that way because if I do the recap, I risk emphasizing something that either you guys thought was nothing or you guys assume because I mentioned it that it is relevant. Which is not always the case. Sometimes it's me just remembering things in the same way you guys just tried to. So, all right.
So we went to Orc Country. We were stopped basically right when we got in there by a smattering of giant animals. There was a couple dire wolves, a giant scorpion.
Yeah, I have it written down.
It did
Basically,
not.
Bambi and his merry men.
They could not
3
speak.
dire wolves, a giant elk, a giant scorpion, and 2 saber-toothed tigers.
Which on a normal day would be pretty cool to see, but this was pretty terrifying. They threatened to just outright murder us. We talked our way into being taken to their leader. And then Deja Thoris, the orc, was not having any of my advances.
Right.
I'm sorry, what did you call her?
Deja Thoris.
No.
It's a princess.
It is now.
It's okay.
Okay.
John Carpenter, nothing? All right.
Nope,
whatever.
sorry.
Nope.
Seminal science fiction. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not deeply wounded.
Well, that's convenient. It'd be awkward if you were.
But basically, we were denied to ever go to the site where we were informed that they were under the impression that the Imperial scholars had already come and, in fact, like pillaged the fuck out of this holy site for them. Thus, the animosity towards us and the wanting to murder on sight. Lots of backpedaling, lots of saying, no, that wasn't us, that was somebody else. But if you don't kill us, we'll find that somebody else and hopefully right this wrong. It was apparently not the Barbarians.
No,
but
yeah,
we don't
not
necessarily
Barbarians.
have that confirmed. But
They're still partying, and then a different group came in on trucks, and was like, "We're here."
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys the Sons of Dawn showed up shortly after your kerfuffle. It was just a basic what happened here. Kyle Haynes was the captain you met in the Sons of Dawn. You know, he's basically I'm doing my job. There's paperwork. I don't want to do the paperwork, but here we are.
Don said he can join us.
Yeah, we did successfully lay the groundwork for him to join our group.
Oh, all right. That's some strong words. Successfully laid the groundwork, but all right, I'll give you that you tried and may have.
Look, groundwork is just the ground. So
all right, you successfully said words at him. All right. Anyway, so
he understood our intention.
Oh yeah, he did.
It's groundwork.
So sure,
we're not built. It's not built. It's just the groundwork.
All right, whatever. So you guys just
Foundation
spread some
for a
dirt
beautiful
around
relationship.
successfully in him,
We
and
flattened some hills.
he went off. He basically told you like just don't leave town overnight, which was convenient because he was basically there the next day to say, yeah, you're good, everything lined up. And so yeah, you guys spent the rest of that night gambling. It was I think Rich was the only one, Jider was the only one that wanted to gamble, so the rest of us just played NPCs.
And oddly enough, even though it would be in our favor to let Jider win, we really tried not to.
Had it looked like you were letting Jider win, I would not have allowed it to continue. The fun for me was you playing NPCs that had it out to win.
Yeah.
That
made it more fun for me too, because like
yeah.
So again, I'm sorry, man.
This is a whole new side quest we're gonna have to go on.
Yeah, so One-Eyed Hagen took all both times.
Sleepy Eye Hagen or CPI Hagen.
You know, we can technically get our money.
Definitely
back.
CPI'd.
He was CPI'd. And so you guys went to bed, Jider having made himself completely broke.
I have some silver left. How much money do I have?
Yeah, I mean, you guys did actually a really good job with the recap, all things considered. Once you've remembered the orc part, just sort of the important part.
I don't remember.
I think you're misremembering this, Brian.
No, you guys, you woke up the next morning. You drove out. A number of creatures that you later discovered were shapeshifted orcs all sort of greeted you, and in particular one came in as a raven, who was the one you were talking to. One you later discovered's name was Ortguth, and he basically said like about a week ago your Imperial Academy came, and then like within a day or two had absconded with a number of valuable relics from the site. And since you're them, or from the same place, like, you get to die now. And you guys did successfully convince him, like, no, it wasn't us. And the you were brought before Bagrak, the chieftainess, who appeared to be probably somewhere in the late teens. She seemed exceptionally young. And that was when you learned, like, Ortguth is her chief advisor. And she heard you and essentially said, look, I want to believe you because I want you to be telling the truth. But like, I can't just let you go. And so the agreement was, as hostages, she would keep the members of the Imperial Academy of Sciences expedition, but you four were given the ability to go out and investigate and hopefully find these relics. And Ortguth was actually sent with you. You asked for some help, and he agreed to go with. Have to watch you. Basically, as if you try to escape or get away from this, I'll just kill you. And half as like character judge for the defense, if you will. And that's sort of where we left it. You guys had said that you weren't allowed in the site because, like, that's just untenable until you prove your innocence.
Yeah, but we did talk him into, like, leading us to the campsite, I think, of the...
Yeah, but the where they camped was outside of the actual site.
Yep.
So she was willing to let you guys go there. Essentially under supervision, which is sort of what led to Ortguth being allowed to join. Now I want to grain of salt all of that, because again, normally I would listen to the session, but obviously I can't. But that's sort of what I remember.
That matches up with what I remember too, although the only nuance I would say is that we were the ones who suggested that somebody follow us around. So if we end up having to escape, that's kind of on us.
Okay. That's, like I said, grain of salt, because I remember Ortguth being with you. I didn't remember.
Okay. Yeah, it was a little grudgingly, all right, I'll send along this shot, man.
Okay. Cool.
So I imagine it's a slightly antagonistic relationship.
Yeah, it's
and that makes
Don
more
was
sense.
Very intent.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Well,
but
it's
also,
better than
if
us
we try
being
to
killed.
run, he can just raven back to the camp and then promptly murder everybody else. So
yeah, it kind of works out in their favor.
But I think we have clearly established, though, that we're on a pretty clear, enemies to friends path with him. Like we're going that direction.
Yep.
I do not know if that is true. I feel like right now I just want nothing to do with you four people. But maybe later I maybe want something. Oh, I guess that's what you said, isn't it? The friends. Okay. So maybe I would say right now I have 10 hearts on my friendship meter. You're at like a -2. So what are you guys doing? Going to the camp?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
We did not make it there, right?
No, we ended when you guys said you wanted to do the thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of a logistics thing. All of the vehicles and all the other hangers-on, all the other members of the expedition, with the exception of the 3 leaders, are camped outside of Orc country. They go back to the city.
Your whole convoy was in Orc country when it got kerfluffed. You 4 and the 3 leaders just happened to be in the front car and were the ones that engaged. So like, you guys have gone a little ways out, but there's still like a guard of people. So like, someone got Bagrat says to like one of the random guards, like, go get the people and bring them into the camp, so we can put them somewhere where we can watch them. And so they'll be brought in.
Okay, I just want to make sure if we had to go back and explain a whole bunch of stuff.
I mean, I think all three of the leaders were here as well, from what I remember.
Yes.
Like, I think they came with, so they know what's up and are among the hostages.
Yeah.
So like the three of them get led out and they'll sort of explain what's going on.
Yeah, I just didn't want presumably like 200 random city people just like terrified in our country just watch their leaders and escort get taken away.
That's
And,
essentially what happened.
As long as they're going to be having the situation explained, I'm less concerned.
Yeah, by the yes.
No, they were definitely there. I just remember one of the three. I don't remember which. Basically almost fainting when we eventually
Dean. Dean basically has no backbone.
Yeah. Okay. He about collapsing.
Yeah. So of the three, Dean effectively has no backbone. Bolin, like doesn't like is sort of a normal level of I'm not a huge fan of danger, but like also calm down, Dean. Like when after the fight, you found Dean just basically dry heaving and Volan just patting his back like, yeah, okay. While Thomas was spent the entire fight on a chair in the corner just watching it and enjoying.
He was a little too into it.
Yeah, so like Dean is basically just white as a sheet, if not about on the verge of passing out, and Volan's just like, all right, hun, let's go. So
do we think it's advantageous? And in character question of the group, should we grab a truck?
Are we allowed to grab the truck?
Well, there's nobody currently driving them right now, and they very rarely might end up ownerless.
Oh, they will not end up ownerless. We will own them.
I mean, presumably
You will die, and all of your stuff will become our stuff.
Yeah, we can take one of our carts. Like that would make sense since there's a bunch of us
it
traveling.
is quite the trek to the city, and if taking one of the trucks would make the trek easier, that is acceptable.
That's plus two things. A, we might capture some people, and B, we might then ram the truck into other people with the captured person.
Just saying, I'm just opening us up for future plans.
I am not okay with this line of reasoning. I would prefer not to be in the truck when you ram the truck into other trucks.
No. We only leave prisoners in the truck.
It's really fucked up. You know this, right?
Well, it's their job to jump out. They just didn't.
But they are prisoners. Presumably, they are tied up or unconscious and incapable of doing so.
To be fair,
yeah, well,
last
they should have gotten captured.
Both.
Oh my god, this seems like all right. Well, I will take you to the camp. It is not far away though, so we can presumably just go there by foot. It is maybe a 20-minute walk. And then when we come back, they will have moved all the trucks with your people into the camp, and we can take one of the trucks wherever we potentially need to go next.
Good plan. I like it.
And we're walking. So he proceeds to take you to the camp. So camp's about 20 minutes away. And it's in, or rather the campsite. So it definitely looks like it. I guess it's still a camp. It looks like it was abandoned. But also it was abandoned a week ago. So like stuff's knocked over. Tents, a couple of the tents have fallen down. But it's pretty clear, like maybe a dozen people were here. And then they just left, presumably after the theft. They didn't bother breaking down the camp at all. You can see that there's maybe 6 tents in total that all appear to be about 2-person tents. There's no like main tent. Like you guys haven't seen the expedition proper, but for you, the players to sort of get a sense, like in a normal archaeological expedition, you'd have obviously like tents or some sort of domicile for the people to sleep in, but you'd also have places for them to work, larger tents that are, this is the tent wherein some of our equipment is set up to like dust stuff off once it's out of the ground. Those sorts of things, like none of that is present. There's a handful of there's like 1 box of half-eaten food. Like it's half full of just like rations. And then there's half a dozen 2-person tents, and that's it. Like it is a small camp. What are you doing? This is the camp. This is where they stayed, and then they stopped staying here and also took our stuff.
Okay.
Are we allowed to investigate?
Yes, that is why I
So
brought
we're here, presumably.
What? No, you can only look at the camp from afar, like animals in a zoo. Yes, I mean, do your thing.
I'll start to make myself look busy by through the tents, looking for specifically anything that looks like an insignia or paper that would have like writing on it, any correspondence, then essentially identifying information or communication.
They are surprisingly sparse, or not surprisingly, given what you know now. Like, there's not really any personal items. It's likely that whatever personal items they brought, they just took with them, and were way fewer than what you'd expect for like a 3-month expedition.
I would like to look around to see if I can determine whether they left in a hurry or if they had planned to be here very short.
Sure.
Was it
roll
like a response?
investigation.
Okay.
And then I'd also like all of you to roll survival.
Ooh,
That's a
survival.
skill that exists.
That's a thing we can roll.
Bill,
Cool.
what is your character good at? Because I feel like
Oddly enough, I rolled really
He
way
smites
better on
one
my survival
thing per game really well.
oh, that's fair. That's actually a lot.
Pretty much any interpersonal thing I'm pretty good at. Persuasion, intimidation,
Okay.
insight, deception.
I guess charisma
He-
based
he-
versus
Yeah. He's a charisma based
that's fair.
healing fighter. I mean, what more could you want?
Someone who doesn't need to look busy in this investigation. No,
Look
I'm
like
kidding.
you
I'm
know
just
what
giving
you're
you
doing.
shit, Bill.
16.
Achilles Z, what did you get on the whatever the first thing I asked you for was?
I rolled a 12 because I rolled poorly.
Cool. Also, what was the first thing I asked you for, and what were you trying to
Investigation. I rolled a
get out in a
12.
hurry.
Survival. I rolled a 13.
No, it's pretty clear. Like there wasn't a rush here. They just left. So like, there's no personal items left behind. There's just a handful of food that just like they didn't bother bringing. But like, it's definitely clear. I kind of touched on this earlier. It's definitely clear they didn't plan to be here more than a couple days. Like,
It was an in and out type
Yeah.
thing, as opposed to hey, something made them leave.
yeah, like they clearly knew they weren't going to be here very long. There's enough food to last for maybe 2 more days, but like, it's clear when they got here and set this up, this is a 4 or 5 day thing, which
So it was
kind
like
of lines up if it
Ents
was a
rather
week
than,
ago.
like jacks. Like, because presumably if you're setting up like an archaeological stuff, you'd set up like long-term like places to process artifacts and to like clean them off and that kind of thing, because you're not gonna grab them and leave. You're gonna like process as much as possible at the site for preservation.
Yeah, based on what you know of how long they were here before they disappeared and how much food there is, you can guess that there were 4 or 5. They were expecting to be here no more than 4 or 5 days. And they got here about a week ago, which I would say implies that they were aware of when you guys were supposed to arrive.
Uh-oh. Got a mole?
As
They
for the
weren't planning
survival,
on being here to do
what did
work.
everybody get?
I got a 6.
You are fairly certain this is a camp.
Yes.
What about the rest of you?
15.
13.
Okay. Eric, so let's take a hot second. Bob is pretending to do things. Achilles is checking out how quickly they left. Jider, what are you doing?
That's a good question. I don't necessarily think that this is within my strengths. Other than
Welcome to the party, pal.
So you're in
Yeah.
the Bob camp of looking like you're doing something
so
useful?
I mean, I got
In fairness, this
So-
is like my moment to shine, and that's why I'm like, me
I
rolling
know.
a
I'm
7
just
is
giving
awesome.
them shit.
yeah, I'm gonna just generally I'm not gonna even pretend like I'm busy. I'm just gonna like kind of kick my feet up and be like,
Okay.
I don't know what to do here. You guys can handle it. And like the only thing I can think of is seeing like what kind of animals they had for moving their stuff. Like what kind of pack
shit.
animals or domestic animals. Also, you were supposed to look up.
Yeah,
animals in
but
the
I
area.
forgot about that until this moment, so I didn't.
Yes.
But I just realized
I
that.
figued that was exactly
That was
what
the
that
shit.
was.
Yeah, it was something he had asked me at the end of last session so that I'd have some headway.
Question,
Because
Brian.
I couldn't listen to the audio. Why did I miss the
Whose lock
question?
of hair do I have?
I don't know.
In my
I don't know
notes,
what
I
you're
see
talking
other
about.
possessions, lock of hair, and I can't remember where I got
Is
it.
that
just-
is that like related to one of your background? Like I've got like a love letter.
I'm pretty sure that's a
I think you might have
background
just
thing.
added it at character creation because I
Crap.
don't know what that is.
I don't
Yeah.
recall
I'll have to
anything from
try
the
and remember what
in-game.
that is. Probably unicorn hair or something stupid like that.
Yeah, potentially.
That's what it is now.
Okay, so you're just doing nothing. Dawn, what are you doing?
Well, pretty quickly I'm gonna realize that I don't have any fucking business poking around at this camp. So I'm gonna go talk to Orkgoof.
Oh,
Orkgoof?
I know what I'm
Or-
gonna do. Sorry.
Okay, what,
I
Jaeger?
thought of something. I have a bottle of bugbear whiskey, so I'm gonna open it up and offer some to our companion.
Okay. So Bob and Jider and potentially Don are getting drunk. All right, so you're going over to talk to Ortguth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Orkgoof.
Liquor him up and ask questions.
Presumably your people have already done this, right? You didn't just wait for more humans to come in from out of town and, jump them like giant scorpions and shit.
I mean, sure, maybe. Why are
Well-
you asking?
So what I'm thinking is any information we might find here, like it's probably been trampled over by, orcs hunting these, asshole humans who stole your stuff.
I mean, they came a week ago. They left. So then we found the thing with the stuff. Hold on a sec. Also, okay, cool. Yes, I mean, we did a little bit of investigating back when it happened. But I mean, this is not really our forte. We're more like your friends, where like we just sort of sit around looking at stuff. There were some I mean, they appeared to go back into your city. But we would not follow past the boundaries of our space, so of our territory. So like it is limited in what we can do with that information.
I would
well,
like
they
to
have-
walk over and ask if the three others, did the three of you find tracks of any sort?
So, which brings us to the survival check. So Eric, to your point, if there were people investigating here, there wasn't like a horde of them. And so kind of looking around, you can sort of discern two sets of tracks. One is a set of tire tracks that seems to be leading off not quite towards the city, but like a little bit off of the city. And the second appears to be a set of foot tracks that lead towards the barbarian encampment.
Okay. So the tire tracks are not. They don't look like they'd be going back along the way that we were coming into the war country.
No.
Okay.
So you guys basically made a straight line from the city. This looks like almost like they were trying to meet up with one of the main roads into the city and then come into the city from the main road inconspicuously rather than a straight line to the city. It's also worth pointing out, like, there's no door, like, or there's no exit from the city that like leads directly to this place because nobody ever goes here. So the city itself is like walled, and there's a handful of gates basically on the north and south and east, basically going up into the empire, down into the kingdom, and then one going off to the rest of the places. Nobody goes west from here because you're in the only real thing that's west of Wistak and Fork, and there's just, they're isolationists. There's no real contact.
Yeah, Achilles. There's wagon tracks or tire tracks going off that way, and then there's another footpath, I think, over there.
If I'm able to, if I inspect the tire tracks, would I be able to determine the size of the vehicle?
Yeah, to some degree.
Like, is it similar to?
So I would say, looking at it,
bigger?
I would, yeah, it's not. It's probably a little bit smaller, and on closer investigation, you realize there were actually probably 2 trucks. 2 or 3. Like, it's not clear exactly how many, but it does appear to be more than one. There's tracks with the, there's sleeping arrangements for about a dozen people. So.
And how many people do we have in our caravan of
50
things?
Or 60?
Okay, so it seems like this would have been very light.
Oh, yeah. Nothing you've learned about this suggests that it was done with anything. If you know about like a dig to begin with, nothing about this would match up, which is what you guys are finding. Like, what little you have figured out and gleaned over the lead up to this, like, none of this really tracks. If the Arcs had known anything about what to expect, this probably wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
How long ago did these people leave?
We found them gone 4 or 5 days ago. 5 days ago.
So they're, whatever they've taken away, those trucks are well within the city walls by now.
Presumably, yes.
What did they take?
Yeah.
They took a number of very important relics. There were his sword and shield from his tomb.
Who's
it was a big
sword
one.
and shield?
The our great oh, that's a fucking, hold on. I have so many pieces of paper.
I want this to be in character. He's pulling out a book and hold on.
Well, no, he would know. I just don't off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Because that is what happened.
Like, everybody knows who the 7th president of the United States is. Hold on a second.
Andrew Johnson.
Yeah, basically. Where is it? So he's our great one of our greatest fighters. His name was Skalfalf. Skalfalf. Yeah, there you go. So his name was Skalfalf. Back when we were less Russian and more Norwegian. And that was he had a sword and shield that he used back in the like final battle that he died with. And so those were moved into his tomb. Or his grave, his resting place. And so that is those were the two main relics that were taken. It's also a lot of like small incidental stuff. Like we didn't inventory the things that were there because we largely leave it alone. Those were just the two things that we noticed that were like, oh, they used to be there because we explicitly put them there, and now they're not there. Oh dear.
Now, if you saw them, you could identify them.
Da.
Okay, because otherwise I was just going to hand him a sword. But
no, they are very unique. Some might call them iconic.
Was there anything not taken?
I mean, yes. I
was that
expect
Cyberpunk
that there.
reference?
Yeah, I expect that there was. I expected some things were taken, but as I said, we had not done an inventory. Like there's plenty of things scattered around that were not taken.
Right, but principally the relics that we should be concerned of most is the sword and shield.
Yes, they are the two that our people are most up in arms about. If you can recover just whatever else they took, this is good. But most importantly is recovering the two of those, as they are actually considered sacred rather than simply detritus that was left in the battlefield that we have chosen not to remove in the interest of preserving the space.
So,
like I'm talking about like armor and weapons and of just like the other people in the battle that we have chosen to leave at the sites at which their owners died. Like they're.
I wanted to clarify. I mean, these two relics are of value. Was anything that is also valuable left behind?
I do not know what you mean by valuable. They are valuable to us.
Oh, I think
if these are thieves, are they taking specific things, or
did they come
taking
for the sword
everything?
And shield potentially?
I must apply. Like I do not understand your concept of value. They are valuable to us in that they were owned by Skalfouth. I do not. I could not say other things which are valuable to you because that's not
gold, jewels, silver, copper to a lesser extent. Weapons are generally just useful, and so they've got an intrinsic value.
I mean, there are plenty of weapons and armor littered throughout the place that they did not take.
If they targeted those things, it seems like they knew what they were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are those two artifacts known to have been? Are those two artifacts known to have been at the site and, like known to be something that your culture values?
I do not know.
Well, we have to assume yes, because
you knew they were there.
If all evidence is pointing to they jumped ship before we could arrive, and therefore laid the frame on us, they had to at least have some information of the expedition in general, where it was going, what it might be looking for, and therefore some of the materials or goods that they might be able to pillage.
Perhaps the professors would be helpful if we could speak with them again.
They could be arranged.
Inside job from the Imperial Academy of Sciences.
Ooh.
Though there is this trail over to the Barbarians, we should probably check out.
Perhaps we should follow the tracks.
I suspect that they have been a nuisance since they arrived.
But they might have they were clearly at the camp at some point. They might have interacted with the people here, give us an idea of who or what we're looking for. And maybe we'll get lucky and they did it. We just them out
I highly doubt that they will be able to string two sentences together, let alone give you any ideas. I am confident they do not have any ideas to give.
They're barbarians. They're still people.
I feel like the fact they're bards mean they probably won't shut up. At least half won't shut up.
But only the front half.
We'll play them. We'll give them a beat. Jider and I will lay down a beat on the drums, and they can sing us the information. like
Fun
bards
fact,
do.
they won't do that.
Hope springs eternal, Brian.
Yeah, well, I can't sing for shit, so sorry to break that one.
Then do it loud.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the trick.
The rules of karaoke.
Anything can be overcome if you have volume.
I mean, sure. Where is it you wish to go?
Well, I think we're gonna there's still some information to be gathered from the barbarians. I think we're kind of tapped out here. We can't go to the actual, pillaged site. That sounds rude. Is there a name for it? Battlefield? Can we call it the battlefield?
Sacred site,
Sacred work.
archaeological site thing.
We can't go to the place where the shit was stolen from.
Fire.
What?
We can't go to the place where the shit was stolen
Fire.
from.
Ziggy Fryer.
Oh,
Ziggy Fryer. Got it.
Fire.
I think we'd like to
It
go to
is
the
what you
barbarian
call it.
camp.
Zigzag Fry Up.
I would really appreciate it if you would not keep repeating the thing that I said incorrectly.
Yep,
It
I'm trying to
sorta
get it
feels
correct
like
here.
you are mocking me.
Ziggy Fryer.
Okay. Anyway,
Is
moving
that,
on.
Is that right?
No, we're just be done, please. So moving on. So where are you guys going next?
I mean, I think we go to
Barbarians.
the barbarian camp just to see what's up. Maybe they've got nothing, but then we're in the same situation. It would suck to, I don't see a good, we have to walk into the city and just look for random fucking work artifacts, through line here.
It could work. You never know.
It could, but
Okay. So you want to go to the barbarian
I
camp?
definitely like the idea of going back and talking to the scholars, because they might have some information about other people who were privy to their plans, or I don't know, maybe we get lucky and there's a jealous rival who's been spurned a few times and took this opportunity to take revenge upon his superiors and elevate himself in the stature of the Imperial Academy. But also,
Boy, that sure would be convenient.
Let's write some set down.
I don't know.
All right, so barbarians or the scholars first.
I don't know that the scholars are going to be a ton of.
I'd like to start with the barbarians.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a